A baby gorilla was frantically pounding on the wooden door of a rustic ranger station. Ranger Marcus opened the door and found the infant in a state of pure panic. Marcus knelt on one leg, and the baby gorilla cried out, grasping his hand while its other arm urgently pointed toward the distant acacia forest. The sound had shattered the morning calm of the African savanna, a desperate, rhythmic banging under the rustic wooden porch. The baby gorilla wasn't just pointing, it was wailing a high-pitched primal sound that chilled Marcus to the bone. This was not a playful visit. This was a plea. The infant's eyes, wide with terror, locked onto his, communicating a message of pure desperation that transcended species. Ranger Marcus's mind raced. Every line of his training manual screamed at him to wait for backup. A solo ranger never follows an unknown animal into the bush, especially not an infant from a gorilla troop, which meant a protective father gorilla was certainly nearby. He grabbed his radio, his voice tense as he keyed the microphone. "This is Marcus at Station 4. I have a situation, a gorilla infant, highly distressed, appearing to lead me. Requesting immediate backup, Sector 7. The static-laced reply was a blow to the gut. Backup is 30 minutes out. Marcus. Severe storm damage on the North Road. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Acknowledge. 30 minutes. Marcus looked down at the baby gorilla's terrified expression, then at his radio. 30 minutes was an eternity. The baby gorilla looked back over its shoulder, let out another desperate, heartbreaking wail, and tugged hard at his hand, pulling him off the wooden porch and onto the low green grass. He made the impossible choice. Acknowledged, he whispered into the radio, his heart pounding. "But I'm going in." He knew the breach of protocol could cost him his job or his life. But the trust in that tiny hand was absolute. He followed, moving quickly. The baby gorilla, remarkably, seemed to know the way, its small form a beacon of panic as it darted across the open savanna toward the scattered acacia trees that marked the edge of the forest. As soon as they passed the tree line, the atmosphere changed. The air grew heavy, thick with a tension he could almost taste, the morning light struggling to get through the canopy. And then he saw him. A massive father gorilla materialized from the shadows, blocking their path. He was colossal, a mountain of silver-backed muscle, and he was clearly distressed, pacing back and forth, his dark eyes burning with protective aggression. He let out a low, rumbling growl that vibrated in Marcus's chest and rooted him to the spot. This was the moment his training had warned him about. The father gorilla locked eyes with Marcus, every ounce of his being a warning. This was the end of the line. Marcus froze, slowly raising an empty hand. But just as the massive ape tensed, preparing to charge, the baby gorilla did something astonishing. Ignoring its father's terrifying display, the gorilla infant ran past the silverback, shrieking, and pulled Marcus directly into the heart of the danger. The father gorilla, momentarily stunned by the infant's sheer, desperate boldness, hesitated. That split second was all Marcus needed. He kept his head low, averting his gaze to show he was not a challenge, and scrambled past the massive, agitated guardian. The baby gorilla led him another 20 yards around a dense thicket, and then Marcus saw it. His heart sank, and the air left his lungs. There, pinned beneath the enormous, splintered trunk of a fallen acacia tree, was the mother gorilla. She was conscious, but barely. Her breathing was dangerously shallow, her eyes wide and glazed with shock and agonizing pain. The massive tree trunk, clearly toppled during a violent storm the night before, lay across her lower body, pinning her to the damp earth. Marcus, an experienced ranger, did a rapid, devastating assessment. The trunk weighed thousands of pounds. It was an impossible weight. He was completely, utterly helpless to move it alone. Behind him, the father gorilla approached slowly. All the aggression was gone. As he saw his trapped mate, his protective rage evaporated, replaced by a sound Marcus had never heard from such a powerful creature. He let out a low, mournful grunt. It was not a sound of threat. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated grief. In that instant, the line between man and beast vanished. They were simply two males standing vigil over a tragedy they could not stop. With the mother gorilla fading and the father gorilla watching him, not with threat, but with desperate, pleading eyes, Marcus knew his own strength was useless. But his radio was not. He fumbled for the device, his hands shaking as he switched the channel to the emergency frequency. Code red. Code red. He yelled into the mic, his voice cracking. I have a trapped mother gorilla, Acacia Forest, Sector 7, pinned by a massive fallen tree. She's critical, breathing is shallow. I need the heavy lift and the full veterinary team. Now, the dispatcher, hearing the raw panic, confirmed the team was being diverted immediately. ETA, 15 minutes. Marcus, hold on. Now, the hardest part of all began, the agonizing wait. Marcus refused to leave. He crept closer to the trapped mother gorilla, staying low, and spoke in a calm, reassuring voice. Hold on. Help is coming. Just hold on. You're not alone. The baby gorilla, its mission complete, refused to leave its mother's side. It crawled up and clung tightly to her uninjured arm, chittering softly, trying to offer what little comfort it could. The father gorilla did not retreat. He paced a small, anxious circle nearby, a heartbreaking portrait of contained power and complete helplessness. He was no longer a threat to Marcus. He was a fellow guardian, waiting with him. The savannah, usually full of life, seemed to fall silent, holding its breath. The only sounds of the mother gorilla's pain, shallow breathing and the distant, frantic calls of birds. Every minute felt like an hour. Marcus watched the mother gorilla's eyes begin to close, and a cold dread crept into his heart. Were they going to be too late? Finally, after an eternity, the silence was broken by the heavy rumble of engines and the crackle of breaking branches. The rescue team, vets, heavy equipment operators, and other rangers burst through the foliage, their faces grim. The team worked with frantic, practiced precision. The first priority was safety. The veterinary chief loaded a tranquilizer dart, his rifle aimed at the pacing father gorilla. But as he took aim, Marcus held up a hand. Wait! He looked at the father gorilla, who had retreated slightly but was watching every move, his anxiety palpable. It's okay, Marcus said, his voice firm but gentle. We're helping her. Let him watch. Trusting Marcus's impossible connection, the team got to work. They carefully sedated the injured mother gorilla, not the father, to spare her the trauma of the lift. Specialized hydraulic equipment and heavy inflatable bags were expertly slid under the massive trunk. With a groan of strained machinery and the sharp crack of splintering wood, the weight was finally, agonizingly lifted. The mother gorilla was free. She was stabilized on a stretcher and carefully airlifted to the modern veterinary station on the edge of the savannah. Her journey, however, was far from over. Her injuries were severe, and her survival was uncertain for the first 48 hours. The story transitioned from the dusty chaos of the forest to the quiet, sterile environment of the vet station. What followed was a gentle, patient montage of her long recovery. Weeks turned into months. Dedicated vets and compassionate caregivers worked tirelessly, healing her broken body and encouraging her to regain her strength. Ranger Marcus often visited, standing outside her enclosure, a quiet observer of her slow, steady progress. He watched her go from lying flat, to sitting, to finally standing on her own. Finally, after 3 long months, the day came. She was healed. She was strong. Marcus and the team transported her back to the edge of the acacia forest, near her troops' territory. They opened the crate. The mother gorilla stepped out, hesitant, sniffing the familiar air of home. A moment of silence. Then, a small, dark figure rushed from the trees. The baby gorilla. It ran to her, and the mother gorilla, with a soft, joyful grunt, scooped it into a massive, loving embrace. A moment later, the father gorilla appeared. He approached, looked at his mate, and then, in a simple, profound gesture, gently touched her shoulder, a quiet acknowledgement that his family was whole once more. From a distance, watching the reunion he had helped make possible, Ranger Marcus smiled.